Week 3 of the NFL season is almost in the books. What are some fantasy implications? We're talking about that in today's video. As always, guys, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Help us get to 1,400 subscribers. And we're starting off talking about Jordan Mason, and it was great to see the Jordan Mason usage was there, guys. He played 75% of the snaps before garbage time, and that game got out of hand quickly. I mean, it was over by halftime, but garbage time was technically in the fourth quarter. Up until that point, Jordan Mason was playing in 75% of the snaps. That's what we love to see. He's going to get almost all the carries. He's not going to do much in the passing game, though. Didn't catch any passes in this game, and that was okay because he was so good on the ground. 16 for 116 and 2 touchdowns. I am slightly concerned is that we don't see any work in the passing game. I'd love to get 2-3 catches a game for a guy playing 75% of the snaps. I don't know if that's going to happen. He caught 2 against Atlanta last week. He caught 1 in week 1 and 0 in this week. So we're basically seeing 1 catch a game from him. We'll see if that changes. Maybe there was just no need to throw the ball to him because everything was there for the Vikings this week. But Jordan Mason, 75% of the snaps. It's great to see. I mean, he is a top 15, top 20 guy pretty easily. Again, slightly concerned about no work in the passing game. I don't want him to become a trap back where he gives you 15, 20 carries, but on some games he gives you 70 or 80 yards with no touchdown and 1 catch. That's not going to cut it for fantasy football. But it's encouraging to see after Aaron Jones, who we know is going to miss at least another 3 weeks, goes on the IR the first week, that we get a big game from Jordan Mason. Treveyon Henderson. A lot of Treveyon Henderson managers are freaking out right now, and a lot of you might be 0-3 or 1-2, because you started Treveyon Henderson the first couple of weeks or maybe even the first 3 weeks, and he's done nothing. I still think, obviously, that he is a hold. You're not cutting him. I mean, this is a guy you drafted potentially in the 4th or 5th round. He got some work. He got 14 touches this last week, which is great to see. He didn't do a whole lot with it, unfortunately. He didn't look very good, I guess. I mean, he looked okay, but, we expected a little bit more from him getting 14 touches. We expected a little bit more than just, basically giving us 45 yards, no touchdowns. So what I'll say is that Ramondre Stevenson fumbled twice. Antonio Gibson fumbled. And after that point, it was basically all the work went to Treveyon Henderson. Stevenson played in the first 2 snaps of the second half. He fumbled. And he played 5 more snaps the rest of the game. And he didn't carry the ball. Gibson played all 3 snaps on the next drive after Stevenson fumbled, and then he fumbled. And then the Patriots had 3 drives in the fourth quarter. Henderson played 26 of 31 snaps. Stevenson 5, Gibson 3. So basically from those 2 fumbling, it was all Treveyon Henderson. Now, does that mean that they're going to continue with that next week and they're going to try and start moving towards Treveyon Henderson? I don't know. Mike Vrabel talked a little bit about it. It sounded like, it was more of a, hey, we need Ramondre, and they're kind of concerned about, having Ramondre out there. But if this is the time, this is the time. If we're going to have a transition here, this might be the time that we finally see the transition. Obviously, Treveyon Henderson is a bench if possible. I'm hoping we see a big game from him to where we can start confidently starting him. Quinshon Judkins, man, the takeover happened so much faster than I thought. I was talking to people because he hadn't signed before the season, when we were drafting players. And I was basically saying, like, look, this player, I don't expect him to do anything by mid-March at the earliest. And that obviously has gone out the window. The guy signed. He played in week 1 a little bit. And then he kind of took over this backfield in week 3. He played in 55% of the snaps. He played, last week he played in 27.4% of the snaps, but he was getting a lot of touches. I mean, even playing only 27% of the snaps, he had 13 touches on 20 offensive snaps. This week, the guy had 20 possible touches on 46% of the snaps. The guy is getting a touch on 50% of his snaps. Like, they are feeding him the ball. He played in 36 snaps compared to Jerome Ford's 24, to Dylan Sampson's 5. He played 25 early down snaps out of a possible 31. He played 5 goal line snaps out of a possible 6. He played 4 short yardage, all 4 short yardage snaps. The only work we didn't see really Judkins in his third down, and then he only played in two-minute drill snaps. But if he's getting early down, goal line, short yardage, and maybe a little bit 2-minute drill, the guy's going to be a huge fantasy player this year. And I'm surprised that we're going to see it after him going from, potentially missing a decent amount of time to he's just the starter now. I think it's amazing. There is a possible suspension that could happen. Keep that in mind. But I mean, wheels up on Quinshon Judkins, and you're ecstatic if you drafted him and got him an incredible value in your redraft leagues. Jaylen Warren, man, Jaylen Warren, the takeover as well for him is kind of here. 23 touches for Jaylen Warren in week 3, which is awesome to see. 79.6% of the snaps. By the way, last week he had 18 touches on 60%. So we've seen him go from 45% of the snaps to 58 to almost 80% of the snaps, getting 23 touches, 5 catches, giving you, total yards of over 80 total yards with 5 catches is a pretty good PPR floor for Jaylen Warren. And yeah, he just it's his backfield and really no one else's. Gainwell will come in a little bit. Caleb Johnson is a non-factor at this point. That being said, my only concern is that neither Gainwell nor Jaylen Warren are running the ball very well to start the year. And it's hard to have a starting running back who's averaging 3.1 yards per attempt. That's hard on your offense. I don't know if it's Warren, if it's the Steelers' offensive line. It's probably a little bit of both. Who is more to blame? I don't know. But my only concern is if it continues this way, if we continue to see a yards per attempt, yards per rush average of 3.5 or under, do they try and get Caleb Johnson involved a little bit more just to see if they have someone potentially there that they can get a little bit better. But that being said, I still think Jaylen Warren's going to be at worst like a top 24 guy. I hope he can increase in that yards per attempt because generally in his career, he's been better than this. He's been 4.9, 5.3, 4.3 his previous 3 years, now all the way down to 3.1 this year. But he's catching a lot of passes. He's catching over 3.5 passes a game, which is awesome to see. I mean, that puts him on over a 60 catch pace, and he's getting a lot of touches in general. So good news if you got Jaylen Warren on your team. Trey Benson, he's probably, if he's out there on waiver wire, is maybe the number one waiver wire pickup this week. He was kind of the third down back. You had James Conner and then Trey Benson, who was getting work, and people probably picked him up already because he was getting work and looking good. It just maybe wasn't consistent enough to rely on for fantasy. But he had 9 and 7 touches the first 2 weeks, 13 this week. He has 8 catches on the year. When James Conner went out, though, Benson took over the Conner role and DeMarcado took over the Benson role. Benson was playing on third downs and things like that. DeMarcado comes in and kind of takes over that third down role while Trey Benson is the early down guy. So I think we probably look at what James Conner was doing the first couple of weeks of the season, where he was giving you, 12 to 15 touches, including 2-3 catches. We kind of look at that, 10 to 12 carries, 2-3 catches, and that's probably going to go to Trey Benson. And if he can be extremely efficient with it, then we could be looking at, a guy similarly to where we drafted James Conner in the, 5th or 6th round. We could be looking at a guy that's going to put up a pretty good fantasy season from here on out. Corey Krosky-Merritt, everyone's favorite, rookie sleeper this year. The backfield for the Commanders was a little frustrating. Basically, they used 3 different backs. They all played between 15 and 23% of the snaps. Corey Krosky-Merritt played the most with 23. Chris Rodriguez played 19. Jeremy McNichols played in 12 of the snaps. Early down was slightly in Bill's favor. Goal line was almost split between Bill and Rodriguez. Short yardage was split between the 3. Third down went to McNichols. 2-minute drill went to McNichols. This is a 3-headed monster, and it's something that we cannot rely on for fantasy football. I know Jeremy McNichols had a big game because he had that big rush or catch, whatever it was. I know Bill got into the end zone, but we can't rely on a three-headed backfield where these guys are playing 30 to 40% of the snaps, and they're all kind of cannibalizing each other. So it kind of sucks. Maybe an injury happens. I still think Corey Krosky merits a hold at this point, but he's kind of a bench piece. And you either you wait for an injury or you hope that his role expands a little bit. The one thing I will say is that he has looked pretty good running the ball to start off the year, 5.7 yards per attempt average. And so maybe that's the thing you bank on and say, hey, if he's going to rush for over 5 yards a carry, he needs to get more work. So we'll see. We'll see if that comes true. But yeah, it's a little bit of a frustrating situation in Washington. Matthew Golden, we expected a bump for Matthew Golden with Jaden Reed missing time. And there was a bump. Now, it didn't translate too much for fantasy. He had 4 targets, 4 catches, 52 yards. So just over 9 PPR points, no touchdown. But he played a lot more. We saw his snap share. It has risen each and every week. 47.9 week 1, 58.8 week 2, 70.8 in week 3. And so the usage is better. It's maybe not quite as high as we'd like to see, like an 80 to 90% snap share guy, like a Romeo Dobbs is playing almost 90% of the snaps. But the usage is there. It's enough. If he's playing 70% of the snaps, it's enough. This was a tough matchup. I wouldn't overreact too much on Matthew Golden. We saw what we needed to see in terms of the usage was there. He was involved a little bit more. He was playing an extremely, extremely tough defense, maybe the best defense, especially at home, the best defense in the NFL in the Cleveland Browns. And so I think when we expect to get some easier matchups coming up for the Packers, they get the Cowboys next. If one of those Matthew Golden catches turns into a bomb, then we're looking at a guy who gives you, a really good fantasy game. So I would be excited about seeing the usage bump because I was a little bit worried that maybe we weren't going to quite see it. That I knew Dobbs is going to be out there, but Dontavian Wicks was a slight concern. Now he also saw a bump, and he's playing a decent amount. But it's good to see that Matthew Golden is out there enough. So hold. Cam Skattebo. I mentioned Trey Benson is the pickup of the week. It might actually be Cam Skattebo. Both those guys are incredible options. And especially with the news that Tyrone Tracy is going to miss time. I think I got a sleeper update saying that he is going to miss time here. So Tyrone Tracy suffered a dislocated shoulder and is expected to miss time. And that's great because it's not great for Tyrone Tracy, obviously. It's great for Cam Skattebo because despite what the Giants said, Skattebo's going to see more work, Tracy came out as the starter. He came out and played 11 of the first 15 snaps. So it was kind of like, Skattebo's going to get more work, but you came out and basically gave 70% of the snaps to Tracy. And then he got hurt, and it was kind of all Cam Skattebo. We saw him catch 6 passes, rush for 60 yards. I mean, the guy had 120 yards. He only had 1 touchdown, not 2. But the guy rushed for 6 yards per attempt. He averaged over 10.2 yards per reception. I think he's going to be really good. I expected him to take over this backfield by October. Now, I didn't, that was not counting an injury, which is a little bit, obviously, cheating, I guess you could say. But Skattebo his time is here. The crowd's going to love him. The Giants kind of need to make a decision here. It's like, all right, are we just going to continue to lose and play guys like Devin Singletary? Or are we going to go out there, play some of our rookies, at least see what we have? We have an incredibly tough schedule coming up. You have Chargers, Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, Niners. Chargers, Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, Niners. That's 5 of their next 6 games. Sandwiched in between is a game against the Saints. Maybe you see Jackson Dart come out and play against the Saints. Overall, I just think Skattebo is going to at least be pretty good in these situations. He's going to get a lot of touches. J.K. Dobbins, the Broncos moved to a two-man backfield finally. They stopped using Tyler Beatty or Bidet as their kind of passing downs guy. Beatty was playing like over 60 or 70% of the 2-minute and third down snaps, and that all went away. Dobbins played 50%. Harvey played 30%. So we saw Dobbins kind of dominate this backfield, 34 snaps compared to Harvey's 14. Early downs, Dobbins. Goal line was split between Dobbins and Harvey. Short yardage went to Harvey. Third down was kind of split between Dobbins and Harvey. And then 2-minute drill went to Dobbins. So Dobbins is going to be really good for fantasy football. But if we start moving more to a two-man backfield, the hope for RJ Harvey could be there. So I guess what I'm saying, I know it's really hard to hold, and I don't mind you dropping him if you need the roster spot. But if you're just dropping him to drop him, I would be a little bit hesitant. Now, his snap share didn't really increase, but maybe we see it increase a little bit. But man, J.K. Dobbins is a huge, huge smash for fantasy football. Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of where it takes him. Woody Marks is a player to keep an eye on in deeper leagues. Again, Agumbawale didn't even play on offense, so they kind of moved to a two-man backfield of Nick Chubb and Woody Marks. They almost split snap shares, 33-30, Woody Marks to Nick Chubb. They early downs obviously went to Chubb, but Woody Marks came in and had 14 early down snaps. Short yardage went to Chubb. Goal line was split. Third downs was split between the two. 2-minute drill went to Woody Marks. So if this team is trailing, I think you're going to see a lot more Woody Marks. Now, is it going to be enough to rely on? I don't know. In PPR, deeper leagues, maybe. What I like about this, and what I always talk about with these rookies, like, all I need is for me to take a dart throw chance on you, whether it's dynasty or redraft, do I see a path to you to get on the field? Because if you get on the field and you play well, your role is going to expand, right? And so Woody Marks has this opportunity now where if it's a two-man backfield and he's going to get in, he's going to give you 5 to 8 carries, he's going to give you some catches. If he's super efficient, if he's good with those touches, he's going to see more playing time. That's what we need to see. We will see if that's going to happen, but just a name to keep an eye on. Maybe put him on your watch list, or in deeper leagues, pick him up. Last one here, also for deeper leagues, Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond, kind of a dynasty darling here. He was a pretty big wide receiver prospect. Had some legal issues that made him go undrafted, but he's he's taken over as the one of the starting wide receivers for the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns wide receiver room and pass catchers is extremely frustrating. Njoku's not doing a whole lot. Fannon's not getting as much work as we hoped. Jerry Jeudy's been a bust. Cedric Tillman's snap share is dropping. It's kind of a mess. Joe Flacco's spreading the ball around. But Isaiah Bond is interesting because he's moved up. He went from 26.7%, 38.4% to 65.2% of the snaps. We know that he's talented. He's incredibly fast. He only had 4 targets and 2 catches, but if we're going to see more work for him, it's going to affect Cedric Tillman, and it's going to be good for Isaiah Bond potentially. So again, deeper leagues and all of that, but still some potential good news here for you Isaiah Bond managers. So that's all I have for you guys. Appreciate you. Join us live after the game tonight, and we'll catch you guys all in the next video.